We are joined by Jacki Daily. Jacki, welcome.
Hello there.
How are things going on the show and the podcast?
So they're going great. I'm here on the Blaze, as you know, Sunday mornings and podcast everywhere. And so been here for about, a few years now.
It's been a while now.
Started at KLIF here in Dallas and then switched over to Blaze.
All right.
A long time ago, so.
And JackiDaily.com is where all the links are, right?
Correct.
Jacki.
Oh, yeah, because there's a billion different ways to spell Jacki.
There are.
I know there are.
Yeah.
My wife spells it Jacque.
Yeah. I can always remember that because for her, it's short for Jacqueline.
Jacqueline.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Jacki Lynn. My mom broke it in half, so I couldn't be snobby. There's no proper names in our family. We're from Appalachia. It's all like two first names. Jacki Lynn.
So you've been following, you're very much into the energy situation. And all of the West, much of the Midwest, is at risk, we're hearing now, from summer blackouts. And the ERCOT, first of all, tell me what ERCOT stands for.
The Electric Reliability Council of Texas.
Okay.
They're kind of the grid operator, and their job is to make sure we have all the power that we need in this state.
And are we going to have all the power we need in this state?
We are not.
We're not.
We are not.
It's just flat out we're not.
We're not. I can say that conclusively.
Really?
And remember, last weekend we had these warnings from ERCOT. Mm-hmm. Don't use your dishwasher, your clothes dryer, your clothes washer between the hours of 3 p.m. and 8 p.m., and do not move your thermostat below 78 degrees.
Oh,
come on! Them's fighting words from ERCOT right there.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
78?
Yeah. So we're Americans. We're not used to this at all. This is not
78.
our way of life.
Right.
Other countries are used to this,
Yeah.
but we're not. This is the energy capital of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We're the top energy producer on Earth. Why are we out of power? Is the great question. And so it's simple. It's just basically Texas has exploding demand because 1,500 economic refugees move to the state from other states every day. And 2 million people flood across the border that we know about.
Every year.
Plus you have all these Bitcoin companies coming here. They're very energy intensive. You have Tesla
Bitcoin mining?
here. Yes.
Yeah, that sucks a lot of energy.
It's huge.
People don't know how much. That's really energy sapping.
It was hard to believe when we first heard that, how much it uses. But
yeah, it's a ton.
Yeah, so with Texas being the top state for attracting business for, 10 years running now, more and more comes here. So there's more demand to start. And then the supply is going down, down, down. And by supply, what I mean is reliability. We've grown up with coal and natural gas and nuclear. They're pretty much always there when you need them. You can move them in a second. We're used to that. The infrastructure is there. We're replacing them, as you know, in this big transition with wind and solar. And they work when the weather cooperates, and there are no shows at the worst weather moments like the Texas freeze of 2021 or a hurricane. That's precisely when they don't show up. And when I say don't show up, I mean in February 2021, there was a moment where wind collapsed to 1.5% of its capabilities to generate electricity. 1.5%.
Okay.
So imagine if you're going to keep replacing your coal and your natural gas and your nuclear with this source, it's just a matter of time. And you can see on a graph in 2021 precisely where wind and solar were intersected with natural gas in our ability to produce for our people. So it's not a wonder that this is happening. And it's kind of a prophecy of mine that came true. And it wasn't all my idea, but cold is not the biggest time of concern for Texans.
Yeah,
the peak
that's
demand is the heat for us.
Yes.
And so sure enough, it's May and we don't have the power we need. And they're saying, well, it's record high demand. It wasn't record high temperatures for Texas. Maybe in May, but not in July or September or August. So the issue is you don't even look anymore to the temperature forecast. You look at the wind forecast to know whether or not we're going to have what we need.
Seriously?
That is the system we've built.
Jeez.
Yeah, on purpose. That's what we're building here.
Why are we doing that in Texas?
Well, so because some people are concerned about climate change and Republicans and Democrats, it's a Republican-run state for 20 years. This is a Republican-created problem, I'm sorry to announce. But basically they had this dream that Texas would be this green energy powerhouse because we are, in fact, in the wind corridor. As you know, there's a wind corridor that runs across the continent from us up to North Dakota and into Canada. If ever wind made sense, it would be in that corridor.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we also have
and we have a
Texas.
lot of turbines.
We do. We have a ton of turbines. And of course, the problem is they're out in West Texas where the wind blows, but the population demand is in East Texas, Houston and Dallas.
So you got to get the power here somehow.
And you lose a ton of it in the transmission.
Really?
A ton of it. So that's another
really?
problem. Yeah, so there are so many problems.
I didn't realize in the transition that power was lost.
Yes. I mean,
Like,
significant.
do you know the percentage of power that's lost?
I think it can be between 20 and 30%, depending on where it's
my
coming from.
gosh.
I mean, because it's come from a long, long way.
Yeah.
They're okay, and where do we even start? We had to pay about $7 billion to build those transmission lines.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear about the cost of wind and solar, they're not building in all of what Texans, I mean, out of our own pocket,
Unreal.
have paid. It's $66 billion in Texas for wind power. That's an enormous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out of your electric bill, hidden in there, and it comes out of your tax bill. So it's hidden in the tax bill as much as in your electric bill. So the cost of it is not really told to you in terms that are factoring in everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does this affect other states as well?
It does, because most of them have a plan to transition. So we're not the only ones. We're just out there first because
it's so hot here.
it's so hot here. Well, actually, it's interesting. Texas and California have the same problem, which is not enough power because of renewables, but they did it two different ways. So California kind of mandated, we are going to have X amount of green power, period. And Texas incentivized, which means they said to very wealthy people, like a T. Boone Pickens or someone else, if you will build out wind power, we'll give you this massive tax benefit. So you're actually paid to build these things. We throw all these subsidies in, and these big companies come in and build it. And so we built it out that way. But you get to the same place where you have too much unreliable energy and too many people to provide for.
So is there no way to switch over or switch back?
Absolutely. We can do that immediately. I mean, we could start today. We could start today reversing the policy because we've been retiring coal plants in this state like crazy.
Yeah.
And natural gas has been going offline. I mean, there's a little bit that's been added recently, but most of what's been built out is definitely wind. And so we simply have to make a decision that we're not going to tolerate this anymore. And I'll tell you how it's going to happen, because apparently February taught us nothing last year.
Right.
The legislature did very little to fix the problem here. It won't be until Texas is no longer the number one state for attracting business because businesses realize, wait, I don't have power when I need it.
Yeah.
Are you
Right.
saying I can't run my Tesla factory all the time? Are you saying that, people will not come here anymore? We will not be the number one state for attracting
Right.
business.
So I'm sorry. Go
Wow.
ahead. Continue.
I was going to say that's I think when finally the people who make decisions here are going to care, because 700 lives lost in February 2021 didn't get their attention
Jeez,
yet.
That's amazing.
I was just going to ask you. So, short of this sea change happening with the legislature, are we going to be like California in that it seems like every year you hear about rolling blackouts in California? Is that going to be our way of life
We're going to
now?
have that all summer?
It's chronic. Yeah, all summer for sure, because they can't possibly change it in the next few months or fix it in the next few months. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be, this is going to get worse and worse and worse if they continue on the plan to increase more and more and more.
Why don't they make the I mean, they're going to be facing a lot of pissed off Texans.
Or dead.
Oh, yeah.
Or dead.
Or dead. At
From
least,
heat stroke.
Yeah.
So why would they not be considering going back to the, reliable energy sources?
well, the first thing is they would have to take ownership of the decisions that got us this far and take ownership of a $66 billion mistake.
Yeah.
And so that's really hard to do, to back up and say that. The other thing is we have federal policies too that really support what we're doing. I mean, it's also pouring money into the state. So if you reverse course, all that money stops. So there are a lot of forces, and it's mostly, frankly, I believe, wind and solar lobbyists or people lobbying for the corporations getting the tax benefits that are pushing, and everyone's delighted with the outcome until there's a disaster. So it'll happen, but not right now.
I would think Greg Abbott would be friendly toward listening to this plea for switching. Is he not?
So I heard him give a speech here in Dallas on this topic, maybe just a few months ago. And he said several things that were very interesting. Number one, he said, Texans, as I speak, we're building out more capacity to generate more power. And of course, I'm thinking, why don't you name the type of energy that you're building out?
Oh, yeah.
It's wind. He's building more wind.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what he means. So I didn't have a chance to raise my hand and say, excuse me. But the other thing was, and this is shocking. I did not know this until Greg Abbott said it. And I do this all the time. Apparently in Texas and in most places, it is illegal to cut off the power in the middle of a power outage if you're rolling the power to hospitals, of course,
right,
police departments,
Okay.
Fire departments, and downtowns. Well, guess where it was legal to cut the power to? Power plants. It was perfectly fine to cut power to power plants that we're relying on to keep us alive in the middle of a storm.
Insanity.
Is it still? Or did they fix that?
That got changed.
Okay, so-
So he assured
Good.
us that got fixed and it didn't cost us $1 to make that policy change.
Jeez.
So they were essentially rolling it to the areas, I am told by the people who sat through the hearings down there, in West Texas, where they actually generate the power, they got cut first. I mean, how do you make
Unbelievable.
mistakes like this?
Unbelievable. Okay, so if your summer of doom happens as you're predicting, does this have election ramifications for Greg Abbott in the fall, do you think?
Perhaps. I mean,
It's not like Beto's going to go in and ride to the rescue with a coal plant.
No,
but
no.
Abbott
No, he's
could be
not.
held responsible and lose because of this.
that's a really good point. And because I haven't even thought about Greg Abbott's reelection chances. I assume they were fine. Although there are some serious election fraud issues that I could go into we don't have time for, I assume. But
Yeah.
no, you're
5
making an
seconds.
excellent point.
Jacki Daily Show. JackiDaily.com. Is that
Yes,
the best place to
that's
go?
right.
Okay.